You need to play this game. And I know you haven't. Or maybe you have. I don't know. Your life story. But hello, everyone. I'm Infamous Outlaw, Critter Alex. I've got over 1,200 games and a horse named after a day of the week. And in today's episode of Backlog Review, I'm going to be talking about Weird West, a legendary game that I just beat. Weird West is an RPG made by Devolver Digital and Wolfeye. I always get the developer and publisher mixed up in every single game ever. So which one's which? I'm not. I think Wolfeye is the developer. I'm pretty sure because I think it's their only game, and Devolver Digital has done other stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is a top-down. Yeah, I'm gonna struggle with the genre of this game. Basically, I think gameplay-wise, it is an RPG, but also its combat really takes the form of like a twin-stick shooter. Like while playing this game, there's a few games it reminded me of. One of them was definitely Hotline Miami, where functionally it is like a top-down twin-stick shooter where you control where you walk, you control where you aim, enemies come at you from all directions. You gotta kind of adapt to your situation and plan accordingly. But before we get into the finer details of the gameplay, Weird West is a dark fantasy Wild West game, which just means it takes place in the Wild West, but there's also like werewolves and magic and cults and secrets and magic beings and all that. Awesome stuff. And throughout the game, you take over the lives of 5 different characters within this setting. They all exist within the same time. I probably won't get into every single story individually, just so it's not all spoilers, but let me just say, I love all these characters. I think they're all just super awesome perspectives, and it tackles an issue that Wild West games tend to have sometimes, or just Wild West media in general tends to have sometimes, which is kind of the framing of it, because, the Wild West is a very mythologized time. There's so much legendary media, obviously, like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and that whole trilogy of Clint Eastwood movies, and Clint Eastwood as a human in general, I think was just developed in a lab to make Wild West content. There's other games like Red Dead or that one story in Live Alive. And yeah, it's just the Wild West is a super cool setting and a super cool place for a game to happen in. That being said, it really wasn't all peachy, and there was a lot of stuff going on with colonization that doesn't necessarily adapt super well to media that's supposed to just be fun and cool. But that being said, I think the multiple perspectives you take in this game at least addresses this aspect of the Wild West because, the decisions, and that's another thing in this game, the decisions you make really do affect the world. There's a lot of changes you can make in this world as you play. I've only played through it once so far, and I definitely do need to do multiple playthroughs to get that full experience. But I think overall, just having multiple perspectives of people that, maybe one character kills someone and that's the best option for them, or, they let a certain person survive, or they don't do anything to change the way a certain town works, and that works for them. But then when you play the next person or you get to the end of the game, it does kind of come back to bite you in the butt because, it really does show that all your actions have consequences and that all these people are really living in a real community. And when you change things about that community, it affects other people, which I know is obvious, but like the average game doesn't have that system. Like if I'm playing Pokemon Red and I go into Route 1 and I defeat like 85 Pidgeys, it's not like there's a scientist in the next town that's like, crap guys, there's a population issue, the Pidgeys are gone. But if you go into a town in Weird West and you like kill the sheriff, or you just kill a couple shopkeepers or something, the entire town can fall apart pretty quickly. And there's a whole function in the game where towns can become ghost towns, which obviously just means they get overrun by like zombies or something, and all the people and shops that were once there are gone because of your actions ultimately. And this game really does put a huge emphasis on your actions. I probably shouldn't say that for spoilers, but you will be aware of the actions you take, whether you want to or not, throughout this game. But I also think the flip side of that is, since you have multiple characters, you can play some of them as like, taking the more moral route and doing the right thing, and you can play others as more of an outlaw and steal and, get all that kind of stealth gameplay you want through those characters while still mainly maintaining your positive influence on the world. And I think that is cool, and it really does let you experiment with all this game's different systems and interacting systems that they have. And yeah, I touched on it briefly, but also the stealth gameplay in this game is so fun. It's that quintessential like cone of vision on the map type of gameplay where you can see where people are walking, you can sneak up behind them and take them out quietly. There's like attachments for rifles and stuff that makes them silent, which essentially lets you be a stealth archer. Another game that this game reminded me of was Skyrim. It, at a glance, it looks kind of nothing like it, but you are doing that same thing of like, you can sneak into shops, you can lock pick stuff, you can steal their swords and things, so you don't have to buy them, you can sell them back to that same exact shopkeeper, and it's pretty funny. And there's just a lot of great opportunities for sneaking around in this game that let you approach combat in multiple ways, whether it is, you want to sneak through just a bunch of enemies in a dungeon or something, so you can just get right to the thing you need to get in that dungeon and sneak back out. You can take them all out stealthily, you can rush right in and fight them, and that's when this game really feels like Hotline Miami, when there's tons of people running at you at once and you need to properly react. And I think this game gives you the proper arsenal. Like in Hotline Miami, you are kind of always at odds with the game, and I love that game. It's super fun, but it is also super, super unforgiving and hard. I mean, it's forgiving because you respawn super quick, but it's unforgiving because it's hard as hell. But in this game, you have enough tricks up your sleeve that as long as you're like properly equipped and properly prepared for any situation, you can get past it in a couple tries. There's tons of fun things you can do, like kicking barrels of oil onto lanterns, and then they, explode into a bunch of fire, and they hurt a bunch of people, and that helps you sneak in a little bit easier. That helps you with the fight because all the enemies are already pretty weakened. And there's just always things like that set up throughout this game. It also does just capture the kind of the grittiness of the Wild West super well, and it also adds in the dark fantasy element without making it too whimsical. Like, there are your usual like werewolves and vampires and stuff like that. And then there are also like pigmen, which, Minecraft Minecraft did it first, but I'm sure this is a trope for some reason. But it's just like literally guys that your head is a pig that got sewed onto your head, and then you lose your humanity. And that is the second person you play as. Like I said, I'm not gonna go into all of them, but pretty much any like group of people in this game that plays a major role, you will be playing as them at some point. The one thing I could see maybe some people not liking is the map traversal in this game. It isn't like Skyrim where you're like literally walking between place to place. You're basically fast traveling everywhere, but every time you do, there's a chance of like a random encounter with someone. So, you might not get that full immersion like you do in a game like Skyrim, but at the same time, it saves you a ton of time not having to literally walk everywhere, while still preserving the most fun part of, I guess, slow traveling in a game like Skyrim, which is those random encounters. You still get those, and then once you acquire a horse, which you should do if you're playing this game, don't not get a horse. It completely changes the game. I waited till like the third person to buy a horse, and I was like, why did I do this? Like it just makes everything go so much smoother if you have a horse, because you can escape places easier. You can skip random encounters when you don't want to do them, because there are some that just kill you. And this is also a game that encourages save scumming, like Skyrim, it kind of like Hotline Miami. It's not save scumming, it's more just you're restarting over and over again. But it encourages that kind of gameplay where, you want to look at a place, and it really is just set up for you to go in and interact with it how you see fit. It encourages you to experiment. Do you want to kick over that barrel onto that guy? Maybe that'll help you if you take him out first. Do you want to just really try to sneak through people? It might take a few tries to not get caught at all. But hey, that might be the easiest way to do it. I'm not 100% sure if this game is an RPG, just because there isn't as much freedom in character creation or planning as there would be in other RPGs. You do have like abilities that you can unlock, and as long as you're attached to a gun, like I said, like the silencer in a rifle, for example, is one of the abilities you can unlock. Those will stick with you throughout characters, but also each character has their own unique abilities to them that like run on the same point system as those gun abilities. So to be honest, I did not really buy these until like the last person, because there wasn't much of a point, because the game's probably like 25 to 30 hours depending on how speedily you're going through it, and so you only really spend 5 to 6 hours with each character. It does not make so much sense to really invest a ton into them and into their personal abilities. It makes more sense to get abilities for the guns, because then it also carries over. This game also has a really fun loot system. I mean, it's not anything groundbreaking. It's just sometimes you find a rare gun in a dungeon, or sometimes stores will have a rare gun, and then you can either try to save up the money to buy it, or you can break in and steal it, which is what I started doing towards the end of the game when the guns started getting more expensive. Although I did see people talking about this game, and they were like, money isn't an issue at all. It's so easy to get money. I didn't struggle to get money. There's always bounties you can take, which are just missions that are like, go here and kill this person. And the cool thing is, the farther you get into the game, the more you start to recognize the names of the people you're sent to kill. Like, there's a certain degree of people are just like random and you don't know them. But also, as you encounter different crime bosses and you maybe choose to let them live, or they just escape on their own, or, it's one of their lackeys that wasn't really the target of your mission, you will see them pop up in those bounty boards, which just makes it feel a lot more alive. And I think overall, that is my takeaway of this game, is just how alive it all feels. Like I said, you can affect the entire way a town runs if you kill the sheriff or something like that. You can destroy towns completely and make them ghost towns. Also, at the end of each one of the individual stories of the characters, it like outlines all the choices you made and tells you, whether or not you chose A or B or C option, and then you get to see. It doesn't tell you it doesn't tell you what it will do to your story, but it is very obvious when those things come back around. Maybe that crime boss you let live is torturing your old character in your new character story or something like that. It is just really cool seeing how everything's affected, and then all of it does come together super well in the final story that you play, because it is kind of about this big apocalypse that's happening and you get to choose, who you believe, what side you choose to support in this dilemma, and it also affects the story, or at least the gameplay of the final chapter, if you have managed to let all your other characters survive, which obviously you might be asking, how would they even die? Because, it's either if they die, you're you, and then you get to restart and play again, and then they survive. That's how video games work. You do get to go back and recruit people. You can recruit people in general. It's a big part of this game. You can have up to 2 people following you at any given time, which is a super fun thing. And, you meet a ton of random characters that can join you on your quest, and it's just very cool. They're very helpful to have around. But you also can recruit your old characters to come with you, and I ended up doing that most of the time. And you kind of have to, at least for a little bit, just because that's also how you get your old items back, is you recruit them and then you talk to them, and it's like in Skyrim, you can trade with your followers to give them equipment or something, but really you're just kind of taking everything they have. You do the same thing here. You recruit your old self, you take all of your old items, you get them all back, which is, it encourages you to go back and see your old characters, which I think is what this game is ultimately trying to get you to do with that. But also, it would be nice if you could just have them, or there was like some vault system, which I think there is a bank that I didn't use that much, but it's basically like an ender chest. This game is awesome. It feels so alive. It has inspired me to finally actually play Red Dead, because I do genuinely love the Wild West as a setting, and I think there is so much cool stuff that could be done with it. And this game really showed me that. If you like twin stick shooters like Hotline Miami, even if you don't like them because they're too hard for you, this one's definitely an easier take on it. If you like the exploration and like the freedom you feel in like an Elder Scrolls game, and just how alive those worlds feel, Bethesda really tries to make their characters have real lives and all that stuff. And if you're into just a good dark fantasy and a good story and cool gameplay where your choices really do affect the world, I highly suggest this game. You really should play it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for now, with chances to move up to a 10 out of 10 as I spend more time with it. This game's so much fun. It's probably my favorite game I've beat this year so far. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I do have a Patreon, so join that. It is the best way to support me and support making more videos. And yeah, thank you.